What's up, JuJuan Buford, broadcasting Detroit metropolitan area, always repping the city. And look, you know how I do it, right? A topic pops up 120 times in conversations I'm having with entrepreneurs and I'm working and partnering with. And, I come in front of the congregation and I talk about it. So for those who are not or have not been introduced to me, I'm the founder of JSB Business Solutions Group and also the founder and co-host of the Grow Givers Project. And basically what we are is entrepreneurs. We're gurus. We're not individuals that earn money coaching. Nothing wrong with that. We don't earn money from offering consultations. That's not what we do. We go out and we build things. And for those who want to partner with us and work with us, we're more than willing to share the knowledge and information that we have. And for those who aren't, we're willing to do the exact same thing. We believe a rising tide lifts all ships. So without further ado, I'm gonna jump right into it. And what I want to talk about today is the challenge of dealing with a situation where if you're waking up by 9 a.m. and the day owns you already, meaning you are just hitting the ground running, right? And you feel like there's never enough time in the day. You're in a situation where you don't feel like you ever have enough time to breathe or think. This is going to be for you. Because what I would challenge you to consider is this. The greatest gift that you can give yourself as an entrepreneur isn't software. It isn't more funding. It isn't a new hire, though all those things are very important. It's giving yourself 30 to 60 minutes of protected, quiet thinking time every single day. And look, this conversation kind of came to a head where I was like, you know what, it's been egging me so much because of accountability call. I recently facilitated with a group of entrepreneurs that I help coach and lead in the marketplace. And the bottom line is folks are winning, right? People are winning on this call. Open houses are being booked, enrollments were transpiring, clients were being onboarded. We were lifting people up. Collecting those receipts, helping people achieve their goals, whether it be as entrepreneurs or just heads of households. Things have been moving, right? And the bottom line though, despite all that success, people were not sounding very successful. And the reason being is a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we are out here operating like gazelles being chased by dogs. Now, what do I mean by that? All right, just follow me here. I was a huge National Geographic fan when I was younger. And let me stop lying, I still am, right? And one of the things I would remember is the videos of wild dogs chasing down gazelles. The thing that was interesting to me was that the gazelles were faster, they were stronger. The wild dog, by him or herself, is not gonna be able to catch that gazelle. But what the gazelles fall victim to is the fact that the wild dogs had more stamina and it was more of them. So one wild dog would take the lead and start running after the gazelle. And then another wild dog would take the lead and start running after the gazelle. And despite the fact that the gazelle may be more robust, heavier, stronger, faster, the bottom line is these dogs taking turns over and over again, right? Lions do the exact same thing. They're chasing their prey. 9 times out of 10, the prey is faster than the lion. But the bottom line is because of the constant taking turns running after the gazelle, what ends up happening is the gazelle falls into what we call an anaerobic state, right? It's when your muscles are no longer using oxygen, it starts relying on glucose. And then what happens next is the cramping, right? And then once the cramps start, once the fatigue sets in, the gazelle begins to slow down, it can't really defend itself anymore, and then the dogs or the lions have their meal, right? Well, look, if this sounds familiar, that's the metaphor I want to touch on today because a lot of entrepreneurs are behaving the exact same way, right? We are behaving like that gazelle because of the relentless noise, because of the relentless stress, because of the relentless text messages, the emails, the bills, family members, friends pulling at us, right? Putting out fires, dealing with clients, dealing with problem clients. Life doesn't stop lifing because you chose entrepreneurship. That is what ends up happening, right? And the bottom line is most of us just aren't giving ourselves enough time to fall out of that anaerobic state. We are constantly running, and we get fatigued, and we're not giving us time or dedicating the time we need to think things through. Because here's the thing, this old thinking or the present thinking that you have today, me included, has created problems that new thinking is going to be required to solve. And it's just very difficult to take the time you need to think about new things and be creative when you're constantly dealing with the noise, right? When you are constantly ducking and dodging problems and issues, when you are constantly falling victim to the world's agenda. And I've had to face this myself on numerous occasions, right? You know, I have the moniker probably tattooed somewhere in my soul of hustle harder, right? Because 9 times out of 10, look, hustling harder, working harder, putting in more effort is the common denominator of success. You can defeat most opponents, most of your competition, your haters, simply by outworking them, because the time that people are spending thinking about you or hating on other people, that's time and mental energy they could be spending focused on, you know, taking time to help others and build their business, right? So every moment, every minute, hour, day, week, month, you know, this accumulated time, what ends up happening is you start getting ahead of them. But here's the thing. When it comes to being in a situation where you feel like your priorities are scattered, when your pipeline starts becoming inconsistent, right? You're not attracting the type of clients that you normally or ideally would like to attract. 9 times out of 10, particularly if you have a track record of success, that's probably decision fatigue. That's the dogs running after you, right? Your attention is split. And, you know, you can't fix new problems with old habits. So you have to take the time to read books. You have to take the time to listen and get quiet internally and ask yourself, are the things that I'm doing edifying me? Are these things giving me energy? And it's not to say that everything we do as entrepreneurs is supposed to be fun, right? Whoever told you that, you know, it sounds good, right? If you find the thing that you love, you'll never work a day in your life, whatever. It sounds good. But the bottom line is entrepreneurs, 90% of the things we have to do, especially in the beginning, we're not being compensated for, and it's not fun, right? Now, look, the juice is worth the squeeze. If you do entrepreneurship right, begin to build systems, you begin to build a business, an organism that operates independently of you, soon you're being paid for things you no longer have to do. But that process in between is not always fun, right? And so what I actually needed when I was coming out of my problems and challenges, and what I oftentimes coach other entrepreneurs to understand, that look, taking the time to simplify, right? Kiss your business, keep it so simple, right? Really sit down, get quiet before the kids wake up, before the world starts to make demands of you, and really ask yourself, what is the best use of your time? What are the KPIs, the key performance indicators, that if you just did these 2 to 3 things, it will make the biggest difference in your business? Like when you wake up, you got a million things on the to-do list, but most of it is noise. The signal are the things that make the biggest difference. If you did them on a daily basis, if you achieve these goals on a daily basis, it will make the biggest difference in your life and your business, right? But you got to get quiet to do those things. You know, being able to plan and think about outcomes clear when you're not emotionally wound up. You ever notice that someone will be coming to you in distressed, angry, upset about a particular issue, whether it be with a client, a business partner, a mentor, whatever, right? They're upset. And you're listening to them, you can see the solution clear as day, but they can't because they're too close. That happens to all of us, right? We can all fall victim to that challenge. You got to give yourself time to get calm, to get quiet, once again, to ignore the noise so you can have a clear mind and come up with clear outcomes. New thinking can't show up in chaos. It can't show up in noise. It can't show up when they're screaming and yelling and horns blaring. And you know where I'm going with this, right? You need time, protected time, that's dedicated to working your way through these things and understanding the things that you need to change. No inbox, no social media, just pen and paper, right? If that's your jam, or if you like utilizing tools. But I encourage you to do those things, right? You gotta stabilize the ship, if you will. You gotta get yourself at a place of calm where you're responding instead of reacting to everything that transpires around you, right? Because here's the thing, especially when you're in that state of mind where you are constantly like reacting, where you're constantly anxious, where you're constantly tired, fatigued, worn out, where it's almost like people around you can smell the desperation on you. It's really hard to attract your ideal clients and quite frankly, attract people who want to partner and work with you. We've all been there, right? You've been at a coffee shop, you've been at a meeting, you've been at a social event, whatever the case may be. And you notice certain people walk into the room and because of the way they're moving and the way they're behaving and the way they're conducting themselves, you look at them and say, that's money. We've been there, we've all experienced it, right? We know what it feels like when someone walks into that space or when you walk into a space and because things are right in your mind, spirit, and heart and in your business, people gravitate towards you, right? Well, guess what? The money, people who are calm, things are going their way, they're allergic to people who are giving off the other type of vibe, right? And that's why it's so absolutely important. So often, once again, we spend all our times on the how-tos and what needs to be done, but we're not taking the time to make sure we're vibrating right? And I firmly believe, look, 30 minutes to an hour, I mean, think about it. So many of us probably spend more time planning a vacation, deciding what we're gonna put on before we go out to eat, right? Or going shopping for something, whatever the case may be. When the singular most important thing you can do in terms of getting your head right, you ask most people to do that 30 minutes to an hour and they pretend like, you're literally depriving them of their life, of their air, right? You're stealing their life energy from them. But I cannot tell you how important this is, how much of a gift this is. And look, I'm indifferent. You can do it in the morning, you can do it at night. I set aside the time in the morning. I firmly believe you probably should do it at night. But the bottom line is my evenings, especially when you're a parent and you have a million people pulling on you 24/7 around the clock, it is what it is. I find that I'm better off getting up an hour earlier before my significant other and children get up, right? That's when I get it in. And I can always tell the difference, right? I just win the morning, I win the day when I adopt this strategy, as opposed to waking up and soon as I open my eyeballs, the demands are being made of me and all of a sudden my inbox, my text messages, my emails, listening to voicemails, et cetera, right? So look, a couple rules when you're setting aside this time. Once again, take the phone, put it in a different room. No inbox, no text messages, pen and paper, and asking yourself, look, what are the top 3 things I gotta get done? And if I do these things on a daily basis, make the biggest difference, right? Okay. So if you're still not following me, and I know this is gonna probably, it's gonna egg some of you, it's gonna tweak some of you, it's all good. Because I'd rather you respect me and not like me and over the course of time maybe learn to like me, then I come here with this fluff and nonsense is, going around here on social media and you like me, but nothing I share with you really makes an impact in your life. And I prefer the former, right? But one way of thinking about it is this, and I can tell you it's made a huge difference in my life. I grew up in the hood, quote unquote, right? Anyone who knows what Joy Road, Chicago, and Evergreen is all about, you know what I'm talking about, right? I spent a lot of my youth in that area, in that zip code. And I can tell you the biggest difference I've noticed between where I live now versus there is how quiet the neighborhoods are that I live in now, how quiet the blocks are. And it has not been lost on me that the quieter neighborhood, typically, the higher the credit score and the more the income that people make. The wealthier neighborhood tends to be, just being real, right? And why is that? Because they have the space and the time to think. They're not being distracted. In louder neighborhoods where there's a struggle taking place day in and day out, have you ever noticed just how noisy it is? Have you ever noticed how much drama is taking place in those neighborhoods? Have you ever noticed that when you are in a situation where you're in fight or flight all the time, how few of those people like get out of that neighborhood. Now, there's a reason why they call it the trap, right? And I'm not trying to piss people off. I came from that space, so I'm not talking down on anyone. But what I'm saying is, the only people I know who celebrate that are the people who feel like they can't escape it. I'll leave it at that, right? And look, it's a vibe, right? The noise, the distractions, the concerns, the noises, the pop, the shots. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's all distraction. And you want to, even if you're in that type of environment, because sometimes you know, especially when you're younger, oftentimes you can't choose the environment that you're born up in and you're raised in, but you still got to find that time. You got to make your way to the library. Instead of hanging out, take a couple hours before or after school, whatever the case may be. But I promise you, if you dedicate that time to yourself, nothing but good things can come from it, right? You know, a couple other things that I suggested during our accountability call was, look, set some goals, not tasks, but literally set some outcomes, right? Don't talk about things that which you intend to do. When you're spending that time with yourself, ask yourself, what are the things that you're going to do, right? How are you going to determine whether or not you're winning? How are you keeping score? Because you can write down 15, 20 things, and if you achieve 3 of them, you're going to feel like it sucks, right? Because you only achieved 3 out of 20. But if you achieve 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, you feel better, right? Because you've identified the highest priority tasks or issues that need to be addressed, and you knock them down, so you feel like you're making progress. So do that for yourself, you know? Ask yourself, like, how many times do you want to invite people to learn about your business? How many appointments or presentations you want to give? How many clients you want to take on? Write down the outcome. How many times you want to interview someone today to either lock arms with you in business, be an affiliate, whatever the case may be. Make these goals concrete during that quiet time, right? Set the agenda, set the setting of your sail before the world tries to do it for you, right? Ask yourself, you know, what is your scoreboard? For me, I ask myself a couple of simple questions every single day. How many people are going to learn about me today that didn't know about me yesterday? How many times am I going to give someone the opportunity to make an educated decision, right? So they're going to learn enough to make an educated decision as opposed to, you know, make an uneducated no, right? How many times am I going to take on a client? How many times am I going to take on a business partner, or at least give people an opportunity to make an educated choice about that? And then how many times am I going to, or how many referrals am I going to acquire? Those are my KPIs. What are yours, right? Calendar the time. I know personally, if I don't put in the calendar, it doesn't happen, right? It's not going to happen by happenstance. The moment the world starts making demands on me, the moment I start kicking things into gear, it is what it is. There's little wiggle room in my day for something randomly to pop up. There's too much going on. So be intentional about this, right? Be purposeful about it. If it needs to happen during the day, during lunch, fine. If it needs to happen in the evening, fine, but calendar it. The same way you calendar that birthday party, the same way you calendar that vacation, the same way you calendar that day at cigar bar, whatever the case, whatever it is you do for fun, right? Put on the calendar. And it's something else I'd encourage individuals to do. Look, pick the one thing or task that you can do that will help you improve and just get 1% better. If you get 1% better, let's say a week, at the end of a year, you're 52% better. Look, if you're 52% better at anything that you do, that's going to be a huge improvement. And so often, as entrepreneurs especially, we underestimate what can be done over the course of a year, 2 to 3 years, right, in the long term, and we overestimate what we can do in the short term. Pick something that if you just get 1% better at it, it will make a huge difference. And look, if this 1% focus, if it's something that falls out of it, it shouldn't be during your quiet time. Your quiet time is dedicated to that, right? Thinking critically about what you can do to get better at the game, right? So common pitfalls that I find hurts individuals when they're trying to adopt this strategy is number one, got to put that phone in the other room. You have to turn off the noise so you can focus on the signal, the things that matter most. Be self-directed. Don't create vague outcomes like, I think I'm gonna try to do this today. I'm just gonna see people today. Or how many? I'm going to take on some clients. How many presentations you gonna give to get to those clients? What's gonna be your closing rate? Like, be specific, right? And create a cadence where you do this, just like it's recommended that you fall asleep at the same time, or if you're fasting, that you stop eating at a particular time. Create a cadence for yourself where you do this for yourself on a consistent basis, right? So that's what I wanted to share. And hopefully this serves you, right? As always, I celebrate success in advance. Goodbye for now.